Good morning on this sad September day as our grieving nation leads the world in saying goodbye to Diana, Princess of Wales. The princess destined never to be queen, but one who transformed her life to become instead a queen of people's hearts, the people's princess. 1 week ago, no one could have possibly imagined the events of the last 7 days. The crash in which the princess died, the mind-numbing disbelief, and then all the controversy about how it actually happened. But nor could anyone have predicted the magnitude of the display of our nation's sorrow, unprecedented and surely unsurpassable. From every part of the country and from every part of the world, people have been arriving here in London for the ceremony. Some political and international leaders are here, of course, but this is not a state funeral. It's not an official funeral. It's an extraordinary mixture of public and private, a unique occasion in our country's history for a unique person. Our coverage here on ITV will continue until 4 o'clock this afternoon to broadcast the procession, the funeral service, the journey of Diana's hearse through North London and its arrival at the Spencer family estate. Our cameras will cover every public aspect of this day. We're at Kensington Palace, Diana's home, from where her coffin will begin its journey in just over half an hour. We're with the crowds on the streets of London, literally millions of them. We'll follow the funeral procession to Westminster Abbey, along the route taken by royal funerals throughout history. And at the gates of Althorpe Park, we'll have the last public glimpse of the coffin before Diana's family say their private farewells. For our broadcast today, I'll be joined by my senior ITN colleagues. John Suchet, supported by our royal correspondent Nicholas Owen, will describe the procession and the service. Dermot Murnaghan will be at Buckingham Palace to report on the atmosphere there. Julia Somerville will be at Westminster Abbey, and she'll speak to guests after the service. And in the studio, two royal authors, Hugo Vickers and Robert Lacey, are here with me to discuss the unfolding events of the day and to talk about their significance. First, as we mentioned, the key vantage points for today's events are thronged with people. Here's John Suchet to describe the scenes.
Quite simply, London has never seen anything like it and probably never will again. These are the pictures from along the processional route. People have been pouring into the centre of London all week and since before dawn, and this is the result. Estimates before today of how many people are on the streets and in the parks range from at least 1 million, possibly as many as 5. We cross to Hyde Park, and these are the scenes there. The south side of Hyde Park, of course, is on the extended route of the funeral procession now that the coffin is leaving from Kensington Palace. And the other change, a modern touch that has drawn the crowds to Hyde Park, is the positioning there of 2 huge screens, so people can be part of the events and yet also watch the service on television. Hyde Park has, of course, been used for big events before. Remember the VE Day anniversary celebrations 2 years ago. Remember, too, Pavarotti in the Park in 1991, when the rain came down on him and the princess. He's due to be at the service today. And Princess Diana was, of course, in the park on that day. We move now to Westminster Abbey, where, as we've seen, people have been queuing for days to get the best view, to be close to their princess, the people's princess. And it's here, in less than an hour, that the great doors of the cathedral will open, and the congregation will start taking their places. Diana's family, the Spencers, the royal family, guests from the worlds of show business and charity work. And hoping for a glimpse, the thousands crammed into the streets around this historic Abbey building.
Still, as John Suchet said, amazing scenes, and we've seen them throughout the week. My guests in the studio this morning are Hugo Vickers and Robert Lacey, and they're watching those pictures with me, watching some of the events unfold this morning. Hugo Vickers, it's extraordinary that in a television age, there are so many people still wanting to be part of the event. They could sit at home and watch it all on TV.
Oh, I think there's a very strong feeling that it's important to see the coffin. It's almost a primeval feeling just to make the tragic events of the past week suddenly become real. That's what people have been saying to me outside in the streets.
Robert Lacey, is that your view?
Yes, I mean, it's sad, but it's also a celebration, and I think it's a defining moment for a new sort of Britain, a new, softer, more compassionate place.
And the extraordinary thing as well is that people have been talking about the nature of the crowds. The humanity of Diana was seen in the boundaries crossed in everywhere, in every case. People of different nationalities, people from all over the world, all wanting to be there to pay their tribute to her.
Yes, you can't define the crowds.
You can see the crowds now.
The crowds are not definable as such. I mean, every possible age, every possible country is represented, and there have been long vigils, people queuing for a very long time, but there's been a contentment in the vigil, and if, as occasionally is necessary, somebody has to brush through the crowds, they let you pass. They're very, very, as I say, contented and kind crowd.
Most of these people have been here all night, and I was up 1 o'clock this morning in Kensington Gardens. It was an extraordinary scene. People gathered round the trees. It was like, well, Kensington Gardens has Peter Pan's statue there, and it was like Peter Pan's magic forest. Every tree was illuminated with candles. There were messages.
At Canada Gate there now.
That's it, outside the palace. And people were, as Hugo said, gentle and soft and obviously feeling very personally what was going on.
That's right. We were talking about Diana's humanity, and we were talking about the fact that people were queuing outside the Abbey, certainly, for 2 or 3 days now.
Yes, I've thought a lot in the past week about what it was that made her unique, and I feel that really what everybody has detected is the fact that she had a very good heart. That was what gave her the natural affinity she had with the sick, with the young, and with the old, and that's what people have detected in her, and that's why I think they feel so very, very strongly towards her.
There we can see some of the floral tributes at Westminster Abbey, and now across the street there, some of the crowds. Robert Lacey, still amazing scenes, as John Suchet was describing.
Yes, she was a soft-hearted person, and she was also a vulnerable person, wasn't she? And I think that's what everybody's responding to as well. She was someone who wasn't afraid to make clear her imperfections and face up to them and try and battle them. And it's that courage.
And that will be reflected. That will be reflected in the funeral service, won't it?
Yes, it will. Stoicism, of course, will be the order of the day in Westminster Abbey. Of course, we've had this controversy this week about the right way to show grief, whether the royal family's traditional way is the right way, whether breaking down and crying in public is the right way, and I think it'll all be resolved today in those crowds and in the Abbey.
But all these people, Hugo, they just want to be part of it, they just want to be there, they want to hear the service, they want to enjoy it, don't they?
Yes, I think there are no rules today. I think however anyone wants to respond to it will be accepted absolutely as natural. I think it will be the most extraordinary thing we've ever seen, probably.
For the time being, Hugo Vickers and Robert Lacey, thank you very much indeed. In among the crowds, every individual, every family, has each its own special reason for wanting to be part of today's remarkable event. The Williams family from the Rhondda Valley in Wales remember the day 15 years ago when the princess met their son Hugh, then just a few days old, in the maternity ward of their local hospital. Norman Rees reports on their journey to London.
We are all God's children here. This is what we pray.
In the Rhondda Valley, they're remembering their princess.
They're all aware that Princess Diana has died. Their opinions vary from her being a very caring person, a very kind person, a very loving person who has done a lot of good work throughout the world.
Keith Williams is head teacher at the Watstown Primary School, and he has a particular reason to remember Diana. His wife Dawn and mother Joan share this special bond. They went together to sign the Book of Remembrance at the village library, and it brought back memories. Memories from 16 years ago, when Diana went to the local maternity unit and met Dawn with Hugh, her newborn baby son.
Some were quite nervous and apprehensive about it, but I must be honest, I enjoyed it. Enjoyed the day, and but as soon as she came through the doors, everything seemed so relaxed, And because, you know, she just looked and said, "Oh, babies." And we, you know, headed to the first bed there, and it was just so nice. It was so pleasant, and, you know, she just, well, lit up the room.
From as early as I can remember, really, my parents had told me all through the years that Diana was at the hospital. And I've seen the photos, and I'm glad to have been part of it, of her life. She met me even though I can't remember.
Grandma carries the memories, though, packing her bags to come to London for the funeral.
I know what that's like I'm saying. Just that I'm sad. But I'm pleased to be going just the same, you know, to pay my respects to everybody. But I am sad.
Like millions of others, the Williams family made today's journey to London, and like everyone else, they knew why they wanted to be here.
I was there at the beginning when she first became Princess of Wales, and it's nice to be there now and to pay your last respects. To see the end of the Princess of Wales. Well, it'll never be the end, she'll live forever in people's hearts.
Norman Rees, ITN.
Now, to talk us through the route, its landmarks and its historical significance, here's John Suchet.
This is the timetable. At 9:08, the procession will leave the grounds of Kensington Palace, the Princess's London home since her marriage in 1981, first with her husband and later alone, after the couple separated. It travels along the edge of Hyde Park, passing the Royal Albert Hall to the right. The coffin leaves the park through Apsley Gate next to Apsley House, the London home of the Duke of Wellington. Then crosses Hyde Park Corner under Wellington Arch, which is never opened to traffic. Next, the procession approaches Buckingham Palace, the home of the sovereign since Queen Victoria moved there in 1837. It passes the Queen Victoria Memorial and into the Mall. It was down this great processional avenue in 1981 that the Princess and Prince Charles left Buckingham Palace in the evening of their wedding day as they headed towards Waterloo Station for their honeymoon at Broadlands in Hampshire. From here, the cortege will follow a long-established royal processional route, little changed for over 3 centuries, a route that the sovereign has taken for all important ceremonial occasions. Further down on the left, the grounds of St James's Palace, Prince Charles's London home, the sovereign's residence before Buckingham Palace. At the junction with Marlborough Road, on the left, tradition and the unique nature of the princess's funeral will blend as 500 members of her favourite charities join the procession. It moves then towards Horse Guards Parade. Along with other members of the royal family, the princess would watch the annual ceremony of Trooping the Colour from the large window above Horse Guards Arch. The procession passes under that arch, the archway of the old Admiralty building, and turns into Whitehall, passing Inigo Jones's banqueting house. Then there are the government buildings, the Cabinet Office, Downing Street and the Foreign Office, and on towards the Cenotaph. It then passes Big Ben, Westminster Hall and the Houses of Parliament. The procession crosses Parliament Square before reaching the great west door of Westminster Abbey.
One of the abiding images of this week of national mourning has been the flowers placed in memory of the princess. A solitary stem, an elaborate bouquet, all laid with sorrow and with reverence. The first arrived in a trickle at the royal palaces and around the country before dawn on Sunday. And since then, more than 1 million of them have transformed the entrances to the royal palace into fluorescent seas of colour. And with each one has come a special message, a special thought, a special declaration of love and respect. We are some of those who left the flowers to read their messages too.
In fondest memory of Diana, may William carry on your grace for your nation and the world. With our love, the McKissock family and friends.
And Diana, with love and affection, you're in our thoughts and touch our hearts. You're greatly missed. Stephen, Samantha, Mark, James, Deanna, Rich and Carol. I'll come from Essex.
Diana and Doddy, may you find happiness and peace at last. God bless you. You'll be greatly missed.
Princess Diana, thank you for lighting up our lives. You were a very special lady. Your kindness, thoughtfulness and loving nature gave joy to the whole world. We are really pretty certain that we will love your boys as much as we loved you. Rest in peace, and we know that you and Dodie are together. God bless you.
It's very simply written, Diana, to a very special lady. All our love, Jonathan, Sue and Oliver. We're from Kidderminster.
Diana, thanks for your love and compassion, which has given hope to so many you love and live for. From the Browns family and from Harrow.
To Diana and Doddy, our princess, our precious princess, touched the hearts of millions with her healing hands. Her beauty and kindness brought happiness to even more. It's comforting to know you had both found love with each other. You'll be remembered always. Good night, God bless, sweet dreams.
ITN has reporters right along the routes the coffin will follow, from Kensington Palace to Althorpe. Let's sample a little of the atmosphere now and the emotion there, starting at Kensington Palace. James Mates is there. James, give us a sense of the atmosphere there.
Well, there are thousands of people here. This is obviously a popular vantage point. This is where the Princess of Wales's body has spent a last peaceful night, surrounded by 1,000 candles. The view this morning was of flames, this is in the early hours before dawn, with the flames flickering right the way across Kensington Gardens. Okay. Every tree was surrounded by flowers, by candles, by people, some sleeping, some sitting and contemplating, some praying.
And of course, James, around you, the crowds who will watch the coffin leave Kensington Palace this morning.
This is where you will get the first view of the King's troop and the gun carriage coming down Palace Avenue and turning left, heading towards Hyde Park Corner. There are thousands here and still they're coming. Many have been here all night. Many were here yesterday afternoon to watch that extraordinarily solemn, mature appearance by the two princes, to see the flowers laid in tribute to their mother. They were here again last night to see the coffin brought home in the rain and the dark. They watched then in silence, and there'll be silence again this morning. Trevor.
James, thank you. Dermot Monaghan is at Buckingham Palace. Dermot, of course, the royal family having spent the night all together there at Buckingham Palace. A cross-section of members of the royal family were there last night, and this is where the royal family will leave from to head for the Abbey.
Yes, indeed, Trevor, and of course the royal standard still at this moment flying high above Buckingham Palace. When the Queen leaves, it will be replaced by the Union flag, which will fly at half-mast. That fuss about the flag that's gone on all week now put firmly behind us.
And are there people there too still waiting to see the family leave?
Yes, indeed, Trevor. Buckingham Palace has, of course, become the focal point almost for the nation's grief. And people here are very much aware that they're not just here as spectators, that they're very much an integral part of the proceedings. Many people, as we heard James saying, there have been here overnights. They've slept in cars, they've slept in tents, they've even slept on the grounds. And it got pretty chilly overnight, and one man I was talking to, was saying, yes, he was only in a T-shirt, said, yes, I was cold, but a hurricane wouldn't have dislodged me from here. I had to be here for this.
Dermot Monaghan, thank you. Julia Somerville is at Westminster Abbey. Julia, Dermot said that Buckingham Palace was the focal point of this, but of course the entire world will be watching the funeral service of Diana, Princess of Wales, from the Abbey today.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the focus of today will eventually become Westminster Abbey, and all the hundreds and hundreds, thousands indeed, of people who've flocked down here and are now massed around the building want to be here because they want to be at the very heart of what is happening today. And in fact, they will be able to hear the service. Up behind me in the trees there are speakers hanging, and so the whole atmosphere should be as reverential, really, outside as it will be inside.
Julia, what's the fate of all those people who have been camping out for 2 or 3 days to try to get closer to the Abbey? Will they have a greater advantage than the rest of us?
Well, the point about them is, I think that when they woke up this morning when it was still dark, I think their mood was subdued, if not perhaps a little depressed. After all, they had been, as you say, some of them sleeping out for 2 nights, and it rained yesterday and so on, but as the sun rose, so did their spirits, and I think now there's a real sense of anticipation, particularly now that some of the guests have started to arrive. I don't know whether you can see behind me, but there are people who have already arrived, and the doors don't open until 9:30, but those that have arrived are inspecting the flowers and reading the messages, so there is beginning to be something for the people who've waited so long to actually look at.
Julia, thank you. Yes, indeed, we can see the people arriving. Moving memories of and tributes to Diana, Princess of Wales. Let's now hear from people who have travelled from all over the country. For the funeral, Jackie Ashley is among the crowds at Horse Guards Arch. Jackie Ashley?
Trevor, yes, I'm standing here outside Horse Guards Arch, and it's through this arch just behind us that in just a couple of hours the funeral cortege will come on the last leg of its journey down Whitehall. The street is absolutely packed, 8, 9, 10 people deep, and these people have all been standing by these crush barriers all night long. They've had no sleep, they've been standing here, but the mood is still very, very good-natured. Let me ask you first, what's it been like all night?
It's been a really good atmosphere. We've all made friends, and the night's passed really quickly.
When I got here, I thought you'd all come together, but in fact you all come separately.
Know each other. No, we don't know each other. We've just all met tonight.
And no one seems to be suffering the effects of exhaustion.
No, I think it's at a time like this, it doesn't really matter. It's not too bad.
Let me come to you. What is it that made you come and stand here for the night?
I don't know. I just think I just needed to be here with everyone else. I just really need to share with everyone else, come and see and say goodbye to the princess and show everyone that we care. So.
Can I ask you, there have been a few people taken ill already because it has been a tremendous wait here. You think it's all worth it, though?
Oh, it's well worth it. It's such an electrifying atmosphere down here. Everybody's been so warm and friendly, come together to pay their last respects and say goodbye to a princess who's been so wonderful to the whole nation, and I'd just like to say our last goodbyes.
There have been polite ripples of applause for the police, but otherwise it's been quite quiet here. Do you think that it's going to stay that way?
Yes, I think it will do. I mean, a lot of people came down early this morning, but we've had nothing but calm, and people have just been wonderful.
It is a very moving atmosphere. Are people supporting each other, do you think?
Oh, definitely, definitely. We're all looking out for each other down here, and we're just pulling together and enjoying being here.
Let me come to you now, sir. Do you think you'll ever see an atmosphere like this ever again?
Well, no, never. It's a momentous occasion. There's only been one Princess Diana, and that's it, period. She's been taken away, and it's so tragic. She was so compassionate, so loving, in spite of her own personal tragedies in her life. She managed to come through it all with flying colours. And I'm just so pleased that she was alive when she was alive. That's it, really.
Thank you all very much. Well, with that, back to you in the studio, Trevor.
Jackie Ashley in Horse Guards. And over in Hyde Park, scene of so many popular, joyous celebrations, tens of thousands of people are preparing to watch the funeral procession on huge screens erected there. ITN's Mark Webster is there with them.
Indeed, as you can see behind me, several hundred people did camp out here overnight. About 1,000 now, many thousands more are expected to watch the service on these giant screens by my side. But I have with me now some of the people who really do matter today, some of the millions who've made the journey to pay their respects to Diana. Now, in fact, Alex and her daughter Lucy Dalmido and Joanne Braithwaite all met Diana, sadly in tragic circumstances, because Diana's sister, when she was only 11 years old, died. But Diana then did her best to try and comfort them. Now, Alex, perhaps I can turn to you first, because I know Diana's feeling a bit shy. But Alex, what are your favourite members then of Princess Diana?
It's just the way she moved. It was everything about her, really. She was very gracious, very polite, and she showed that she really cared about us, the people. And us being people, you know, we tend to think, well, you know, this lady showed us some love and compassion. We're here doing the same thing for her.
Now, Lucy, I know you were saying earlier, it's very difficult to come to terms with the fact that Diana has actually died. What are your memories of her?
She was a wonderful person. I think she touched everyone's lives, especially my friend Karen, and I think she'll be greatly missed, but I don't think she'll ever be forgotten.
What was it like talking to her?
I just felt extremely comfortable with her, and relaxed, and she shook all our hands, and she was very comforting.
And from today, do you hope at least to get a bit of solace out of being here?
Yes, definitely. I think if I come here, I can accept it more now, so I felt it was something that I had to do.
Yeah. For the family, Alex, I know your wife is here too.
Yes.
For the family, it must have been terribly important for you to be here and share this all together.
I think it was important of us that we had to physically come out and be somewhere to share, really, the upset and the tragedy that everybody's had. We're sitting here, our thoughts are on the rest of the royal family and the Fayed family, who have also suffered in this. Just like the rest of us.
Yes, I know, Lucy, too. We were talking about the boys in particular. You were very impressed with the way they behaved yesterday.
Yes, definitely. I think they were very courageous. They had to stand up in front of everyone and be very strong. And shaking hands with the people and getting into contact was exactly what Diana did. So they were carrying on what she loved to do.
Yes, I know that certainly the people who are expected here, as I say, in their thousands later on today, will be expressing sentiments very much along those lines. Trevor.
Mark Webster at Hyde Park. They have, as we've seen, many aspects of Diana's funeral which are strikingly different from previous royal occasions. None more so than her final journey. As her coffin leaves the ceremonial heart of the capital, it will then pass through parts of North London which had never before been part of a state occasion, on its way to Northamptonshire. No doubt there'll be people watching the events along the entire route. But there's one place that the crowds won't be, and that is this tranquil island in the middle of the Althorpe Park, which will be the final resting place for the princess. Hugo Vickers, that seems a most appropriate place for the final resting place for the princess. It certainly looks tranquil. And what I think the Spencer family said was that, of course, the boys will be able to go there. My boys, as Princess Diana called the two young princes, will be able to go and visit their mother's grave.
Yes, there have been Spencers at Althorpe since 1506. She spent a lot of her early years there. I think it's an absolutely wonderful idea that they should bury her in the park on that lovely island. And as you say, it will be a mixture of two things. It will be possible for her boys to go there whenever they wish, but it will also be possible for what I think we will see is a long, perhaps for many, many years, visitors from the general public who will wish to pay their respects to her. So I think it's a really lovely decision.
It's another indication of this intersection which marks and defines so much of Diana's life, belonging in part to the old institution, the old monarchy, but also part of the sort of that modern phenomenon, modern celebrity, Robert Lacey.
That's right, and one can't help being struck by how articulate everybody is in the crowd about their feelings, talking in a way which I think is quite new in Britain, and I think that may be one of her most enduring memorials. She was someone always trying to get in touch with her feelings, and here is everyone else doing exactly the same thing.
Of course, I think part of the tempo, part of the rhythm of what's happening today was set by that broadcast by the Queen, who called her somebody of exceptional ability and somebody of exceptional heart and good nature. It was really quite a fulsome tribute from Her Majesty.
Yes, it was, and it must have been a very difficult thing for her to do, and I think she did it extremely well, with great dignity. She answered all the points that have been risen in the course of the week, and she paid a very, very full tribute to Princess Diana. She spoke to us not only, as she said, as a grandmother, but also as our Queen, and I think we were feeling that we wanted to hear something from her.
And for some more crowd scenes now, here's my colleague John Suchet.
And we'll bring you up to date with the scenes now outside the main venues for today's funeral. This is Kensington Palace, and it's just about 10 minutes from now that the Princess's cortege will leave here. You may recall the remarkable scenes last night of the hearse bringing her coffin to Kensington Palace. A constellation of flashlights going off as her car passed, just as it did to her in her life. These are the gates there to Kensington Palace through which the gun carriage bearing her coffin will pass. Crowds standing 10 or more deep, 15, 20 deep. and a little way across town to Buckingham Palace. And you may recall the scenes there yesterday, the unprecedented scenes of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh on their walkabout, before they even went into the palace, having flown down from Balmoral. And the applause they received from the crowd. And one person handed the Queen a bouquet and she said, "Is it really for me?" And at Westminster Abbey, a short distance away, at the end of the processional route, the mourners have already begun arriving to take their seats. The great west door there of the palace. The mourners are beginning to arrive. A little earlier we saw 2 nuns from Mother Teresa's order, the Sisters of Mercy. And let's not forget that the world has lost a second woman of great compassion. Members of the charities to which the princess belonged are beginning to arrive. And there will be a few of the great and the good there today, former prime ministers, the present government, but the majority of mourners are her close personal friends, drawn, we understand, from her Christmas card list. Stars from the world of show business.
Let's go now to Michael Branson, our political editor, who is at Buckingham Palace in our studio there. Mike, there's been a cessation of conventional politics this week, but of course it's been impossible to take politics entirely out of what's been happening with the princess's funeral.
You're quite right. Parliament is in recess at the moment, and therefore political activity is always a little lower at this time. But during that time, normally, you get the daily press conferences that the parties want to have and things like that. There has been nothing of that at all. Mr. Blair has had 1 or 2 meetings at Downing Street, but a complete cessation, as you say, of political life as we know it. I think an editorial in the Daily Mail catches it rather well this morning. The headline on the editorial is "A Silence That Unites the Nation." And he makes the point, even the bitterly acrimonious devolution debate in Scotland has been overwhelmed for the time being in the national sense of loss. That poll, of course, theirs is due to take place 6 days from now, and yet all activity in that most important campaign that will resume on Monday has been completely suspended. And it's perhaps worth making the point also about the papers. The papers were leading the criticism during the middle of the week, but the Express this morning, the royal family won back the hearts of the British people yesterday. The Mirror this morning, the Queen had been criticised for being uncaring and out of touch. No one can say that now. Only perhaps the Sun newspaper, drawing just a little cautionary note. Let us hope we're seeing a new monarchy, one that's more human, less detached and more in touch.
Michael Branson, thank you. The idea that the princess was the queen of people's hearts wasn't simply an invention of the newspapers seeking to label her or the wish of an admiring public. Diana called that role hers for herself. She expressly said that that's what she wanted to be. So just before we see her coffin brought out from Kensington Palace, let's again look back now on Diana's life in pictures, and with a few words that she used about the guiding principles of her life. They're set to Grieg's Piano Concerto, a work that she was known to adore.
Life, froth and bubble. 2 things stand like stone. Kindness in another's trouble, courage in your own.